Okay, so we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and today it's great to have Keith here. You're one of the individuals that's been really behind this modern artistic movement in the tattoo space. You've spearheaded what a lot of tattoo culture looks like today. You created your own shop, which I think wasn't the easiest journey for you to have your own place after not being easy to even get an opportunity to be in this space. And you've created iconic tattoos, helped to start great trends, including like the lion face trend that's been on a lot of people's fingers and others. And so I'm excited to have you here also to talk about this new creation that you're working on with Magic Ink and the opportunities to have like an Etch-a-Sketch type ink on your body. So looking forward to it, and let's begin.
Thanks, Ben. Pleasure to dive in.
Awesome. So how did your interest in, wanting to create tattoos begin? Like, what inspired you to say, hey, this is what I'm going to do with my life?
I think I grew up when I was young. I kind of always had the ability to make art, and I never really had the love to do it. And I think that was really just a struggle to find a medium that I obsessed over. That was really challenging. So I was kind of the kid who would draw half of a picture and then I'd stop, or sculpt half of a thing and stop. And when I found tattooing, it was really I really wanted tattoos when I was a teenager. I really liked tattoos. My idols and heroes had tattoos, and I just thought tattoos were cool, really cool way of self-expression. So, I wanted tattoos. I couldn't afford them. And so, silly, teenage mind me thought, well, maybe I should just buy a tattoo machine and I should just tattoo myself. And that's exactly what I did. Which is, in hindsight, not what I would do now. It's not the appropriate way to learn how to tattoo, because you'll learn a lot of bad habits. And it's not really safe to teach yourself, without previous, bloodborne pathogen education. But it's what I did. And, I started tattooing myself, and I really never stopped. As soon as I started tattooing, the people around me wanted tattoos. And so I tattooed them. I was in high school at the time, and I became obsessed with this medium that was impossible to master. And the reason I still feel it's impossible to master is, our canvas is organic, it's alive, it's bleeding, it's hurting. And so there's this kind of rush to do it as quickly as possible, but to do it as perfect as possible. And so it's just kind of these variables you can kind of move forward. How quickly can you do it? How perfectly you can do that? How quickly? And so, it's just a heck of a challenge where, painting could dry and you could layer on top of it, or even sculpting marble, you can kind of build your shapes and walk away and come back. And, I really love still the pressure, time crunch, and variability of people and skin. And then I think I learned that I love to make things for people. So I get to connect with somebody, learn about them, who they are, and then try to make something for them that's timeless, that'll last forever, as far as an image, that also represents who they are, what their style is. So yeah, that's where I started and why I keep doing it.
So, I mean, you mentioned that you wouldn't suggest a tattoo kit for someone beginning today. Like, what would you suggest is the best route for a newbie?
Well, now there's a lot of tattoo education online, and so you have to be a little careful of like who you're getting tattoo education from, because you could learn the wrong things. But even in my experience, I learned firsthand from so many people I got a chance to work with that were incredibly talented throughout my career. I learned some things of what not to do. So, you can learn what to do from somebody, but you also learn what not to do from somebody. So all information is valuable.
Right. So,
So there's that avenue, and then there's also, the opportunity of being tattooed by artists, working on your art. If your art impresses an artist enough, they would teach you one-on-one, which is the only way that I teach people. And whenever I teach someone to tattoo, it's always for free. I would only teach them out of the passion to teach them, never for money.
Interesting. So, what would you say has enabled you to really develop your art skills? Like, you mentioned that you've done, you've practiced and, of course, done lots of different designs. But how did it doesn't always mean you'll get better if you continuously practice. How did you refine your ability to make, designs that are so precise and so unique?
Um, Really, tattooing forces you to improve. At least in my experience. You know, if you're going to be a tattoo artist or an artist, period, I just think there's probably nothing worse than being a bad tattoo artist. So, like if you're passionate about doing it, you're going to want to improve. And for me, being forced to finish something that I start was the best teacher. So I had to work through the hurdles, or the speed bumps, or all the things that the frustration points, and I have to do it quickly. And it's a great lesson. Every time I start something, I will finish it. And that kind of pressure to get the job done has helped me improve, helped me learn ways around the things I'm, maybe not as skilled at. How do I compensate for my mistakes? No artist is perfect. It's really how well do we hide our mistakes?
Hmm. Right. There's a lot of lessons to you've got to be able to complete this. You can't just leave it, not complete. So that's a lesson for a lot of things in life.
Yeah, artwork is truly never finished. It's only abandoned, right? It's a very famous saying. But with skin, you kind of have to finish or you'll start, hurting someone, and do kind of irreversible damage to their skin. So there's kind of a finish line that you get to. And yeah, maybe it is applicable across all things in life.
So you had this opportunity to create a tattoo for Rihanna. She was interested in creating one, and you actually steered her on, I think, a different direction than what she initially was thinking. So can you just share a little bit, Keith, about like how you even built a relationship like that initially, and then why you wanted to go a different direction than what she wanted to go she wanted to go to?
Yeah, Rihanna's a pretty special story. I've been lucky enough to make lots of tattoos for Rihanna, and our kind of relationship started with, a girl walked into a tattoo studio. So, and I was tattooing at the time. And actually, uh, maybe more interestingly, she walked into several tattoo studios. And I used to work on this strip in New York City. It's called West 4th Street. So it's on 6th Avenue, West 4th Street. And it's very cringy. There's kind of like adult stores, tattoo shops, and adult store and tattoo shop. So it's kind of called it the strip at the time. And she walked into all of them and would ask everybody, who's the best guy. And I think one of my friends maybe lied to her and said I was the best guy. So I was a kid. I was 19 years old. And I don't know if I was the best guy that worked out there, but I tried my best at the time. And I met her and she was cool. And, this was before Umbrella released. So she was a musician. That's all I knew. But a lot of people are musicians in New York. And, kind of treated her the way I'd treat any client, interested in their idea. If I think from someone's idea that I could make a great tattoo, then I want to make it for them. So it was simple. And my job has always been, to me, to take someone's idea and then try to make it beautiful. And in some cases, it's to try to place it beautifully, right? So, her first tattoo for me was like a Sanskrit prayer that she had on a necklace. And the challenge in that one was, okay, how do we find a really unique body placement for this that I think will draw the eye to a place where you're not used to seeing a tattoo? How do we accent a unique shape? And so I've kind of always done this in my career, where the things that I was taught and where to place a tattoo, I try to break that and try to just land something unique. Sometimes, the image is the shape. And so in this case, it was a line. Where would a line be kind of most attractive or land the best or last the longest and those kinds of things? Where would it land uniquely that was interesting? And so, yeah, that's where it started. And in many cases, Rihanna's come to me with ideas that I can't come up with in my head a way that it's going to look cool. And so I won't do it. I think she's kind of said several times that's her favorite part about me is like if I'll tell her no, and so I think maybe celebrities don't get told no often, so I think she values my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you only want to do good work, right? So if you can't get it done, might as well not do it and keep that relationship.
I've just learned that if I can't see it in my head as
Mhm.
something that's going to be cool, I'm not going to see it on your body after I do it as something cool. So I just kind of learned, like, we're not going to find out on your skin.
Right.
Um, so it's got to be cool in my mind first, before we dive in.
So, you got a couple different gigs early on, different shops you were working at. Can you just share a little bit, Keith, about like the story of creating your own shop? Because I think it wasn't easy. You had funding from your father initially, then that backed out, and you had to create it again. Like, how did you persist on there and really build up your own place? I think now you have a couple.
Yeah. The tough part for me with tattooing where I was when I was younger was, I kind of ascended the ranks of tattooing, right? I started in my mom's kitchen. I worked outside of a trailer park in Delaware. I moved to New York City and worked in the strip, and then I worked in like a custom studio in New York. And then I worked at the most famous tattoo studio in the world at the time. And then I actually saw lots of issues that were, parallel from the bottom of tattooing all the way to the top of tattooing. I saw the same kind of things, problems, and then I kind of watched the. I think I noticed that there was a lack of systems and checks that would keep tattooing professional and safe.
Hmm.
And so those were things I wanted to build. And then I also think I saw this gap between fashion and tattooing. Um, the tattoo culture and the tattoo industry is this kind of like, tattoo convention culture. It always felt to me like this small cookie jar with every artist in the world wanting to put their hand in to become a famous tattoo artist and really kind of make and curate their art for their peers for their approval. And I really have much of a desire for that. Like my goal was more, well, I want to make tattooing like welcoming. So my first experience in a tattoo shop didn't feel welcoming. I think most people's maybe didn't 20 years ago. And, and so, like questions aren't taboo. There's no stupid question. There's no dumb idea. And your idea is welcome and we want to tattoo you. So, kind of taking it out of this biker or boys club culture into, treating tattooing as an avenue, an expression of beauty and fashion. So how do we bridge the gap between fashion and tattoo? And that was kind of my first goal. And so, it was really, I started a store out of necessity. And yeah, as you mentioned, I tried to do the first one with my father, and there was just a lot of disagreements on how that should run and operate. My father was an artist, a very talented artist, but didn't have experience in tattoo. Didn't have a tattoo, wasn't part of that culture, and so when there was a disagreement, you know, I didn't feel like that came from an educated place or from a love of tattooing. So, my moral compass for tattooing, and my care for the art, like, kind of trumps everything. And so, you know, we, I, that idea was thrown in the trash and I did it on my own and it became, what it is today.
Because it was very different 20 years ago, 15 years ago. It wasn't as fashion like. It wasn't as viewed as something that was more like progressive and people would be accepting of it. It's also become a much nicer experience. Some of these shops, they look great. So I think that it's great that you did that and you moved it towards that avenue.
It's cool. I look around at the landscape of tattooing around the world and I can see, the influence our studio has had. And that's not just, it's not credit to me. It's really credit to our whole team who did that. I didn't do it by myself. So, we have a great designer and Jesse McGowan, who's been with us from the very beginning, who designed our space and our branding and curated the way that we present our company. And, we've had great management and leadership that have, really work tirelessly on every aspect that no one sees. So I really think to build a great company and to build a great brand, it's not everything you can see that makes it great. It's everything you can't see, right? So, I live in New York City. There's skyscrapers here. They seem so tall and so massive, but the foundation is what is holding those up, and you can't see that foundation. So we focus and work on the foundation, and that's why we're able to stand so tall.
100%. So why did you want to create Magic Ink? Like, what was the thinking behind wanting to build something that, is a bit different in terms of the way traditional inks have been done?
Well, I don't, maybe to my fault, I don't like go for low hanging fruit. So it'd be real easy to make standard tattooing. And standard tattooings are really quite simple. They are pigments, which are borrowed from the same pigment manufacturers that manufacture pigments for your car paint, your house paint, your printer inks, and your home printer. It's really those same pigments, industrial pigments that are mixed into a carrier fluid that we shake up and tattoo into your skin. And so those pigments are not engineered for the body. And when I learned that in my exploration of tattooings, it made me think, well, what pigments are engineered for the body? And I did my research and I found a pair of scientists at the University of Colorado in Boulder that had done just that. They engineered pigments from scratch, from inception for skin with medical grade ingredients and biocompatible ingredients. And that was really interesting. And I saw, when I saw Magic Ink before it was named Magic Ink, when I saw it in person, it kind of something clicked that I realized every tattoo ink in the future will be much smarter than it is today. It will be biocompatible, will be engineered for your skin, it will be engineered for your body. And so, when I realized that, like, okay, cool, you could activate and deactivate this tattoo, like, that's fun, that's cool. I think there's a lot of people that will think that's interesting, especially in cultures where tattoos are still kind of taboo, um, as opposed to our culture, which is pretty accepted now. I think that, and we haven't actually shown yet, people don't quite realize Magic Ink gives you the ability to even change the image inside your skin. So if you wanted your tattoo to say mom one day, you could. If you wanted to say dad the next day, you could. It's painless
Wow.
and instant and easy. And if you want your tattoo to say nothing at all the next day, you could. And so, um, it really fascinated me the way tattooing fascinated me when I met it. So, I've done this job for so long. I know everything about tattooing. There's not a thing that I have to learn now. It's really, me trying to master things and kind of constantly improve. This felt like something out of like a sci-fi novel, or and I'm watching it with my own eyes. It feels like a magic trick. And so, um, you know, we wanted to make something new, fun, and exciting. And it's kind of like a new tool for artists to play with and a new tool for clients to engage with. Now your tattoo is kind of more personal. If you want to be the artist, you can.
Hmm. How does that work? Like, you're able to just remove the letters and then put them back. Like, it sounds almost impossible.
It's hard to describe and it's hard to understand. And I've had this conversation with so many people. There's no way that I can simply explain it. But if I could try, it would be, imagine you had a solid dot the size of a quarter tattooed on your wrist. And inside that dot is fully populated with magic ink. You could choose where you activate. So if you want that dot to be a smiley face, you just activate dot dot curved line. Now it's a smiley face. If you wanted it to be a letter, now you activate the shape inside that letter. And you can do that with a light we've developed that's kind of really a pen, a pen light, so a stylus for your skin where you could draw it, or you could do that with a die cut stencil. So it's like a sticker that has a die cut out of it, and then you just shine a light on top, and it'll activate whatever's exposed, and anything that isn't exposed will stay deactivated.
Wow, definitely interesting.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, when you create something, Keith, a tattoo becomes a part of a person's, potentially for their whole life, becomes a part of their body. What kind of goes into, like, handling that type of, I mean, because there's a certain pressure there when you're creating a design. Like, how do you handle that? And what does it, what does that mean to you that your work becomes a piece of somebody's entire life?
Um, I don't think about pressure as much. I'm more excited to make it, and I think I feel um, immeasurably confident in my ability to make a tattoo for somebody and make it really well, even if I'm struggling through trying to render something in skin that's seemingly impossible. I am so confident in my ability to tattoo that I know at the end of it, it will be great. So I don't have any stress. There's really stress-free experience. There's no pressure. We're enjoying that process. So I'm enjoying it, and I have to make it well. And the client should enjoy it too. But the second part of your question of what does it mean to me to make something that's part of them for life? It means everything to me. It's why I do this job. Um, there's a psychology to every tattoo, why someone's being tattooed. There's a reason, a strong reason. And some of those reasons are, measurable and easier to, identify and understand. Someone's getting their, a tattoo for their, past loved one or something. And, someone might just be getting a word on them, but those reasons are profound. And so I just like being a part of that. And, there's it's just real. That's the most rewarding thing. So I don't get a lot of, there's nothing rewarding in kind of being patted on the back for, by my peers. To me, it's the reward of the client loving their tattoo and them telling me how many compliments they get. So yeah, as I mentioned before, I just love to make things for people. And what is more special than making a tattoo? To me, I don't know if there's anything more special.
It's a good way to look at it. So one of the opportunities that you had that really I think did a lot for you was tattooing LeBron. You got into his inner circle. I think that was a process to you. Can you just share a little bit about how that relationship developed and what went into creating his initial tattoo that you did?
Yeah, so sometimes celebrities vet me with their friends, which is the case with LeBron. So one of LeBron's really close friends, PR, who's part of his television series, came to meet me when I was in Lower East Side. He's an LES local. We just met, chatted, told me, who he was, why he was there. And I said, yeah, I'd love to make a tattoo for LeBron. I'm a basketball fan. Like, who doesn't want to tattoo the greatest basketball player of all time? And so, yeah, I got to go to Cleveland and I got to go to his house and make a tattoo, a portrait of his daughter on his back. And, it's a really special thing to be trusted with, right? You're going to make a tattoo for your only daughter. That's an honor. And it was cool. I got to have dinner with his family. I met his kids when they were younger, and really fun experience. Those moments are my, Super Bowl or my, award show. Those moments and memories that I get with a person like LeBron or, tattooing Justin Bieber on an airplane or even, just spending a day in Dominican Republic tattooing Rihanna. And, I think those moments they stand out as things that have helped define me because I've never stood on a mountain and say like, hey, look at my work. I'm great at this job. Come get tattooed by me. It's been other people. So it's people like you, Ben, who are share my story or my work with the world or, press and media or celebrities. So those things I just really appreciate. I've, humbly started in a kitchen. And I'm now doing a podcast in a kitchen.
Full circle.
Yeah.
So, you did a tattoo that got a lot of traction, which was the Justin Bieber one around his torso. That was, I think, pretty interesting. It was earlier on also for him. Can you just talk a little bit about that, what that was like?
Yeah. So I've tattooed Justin for a long time. Met him when he was 18. And I think I made his first tattoo I think it was Believe on his arm. It's maybe the name of his album. He was a kid. He was a funny kid who sang more than he spoke, danced more than he walked. It's like really cool energy. It's really fun to meet him. And I've stayed in touch with him throughout the years. And he's gotten tattooed by a lot of people around the world. And he got a lot of, tattoos that didn't make sense. So on his stomach, he had words. On both sides of his chest, he had animals. And, I came and tattooed a cross on his chest. And then he's like, I want to fill this stuff in. What do I do? And I'm like, well, tough to fill in this story. And so, I did my best to kind of make it feel less patchwork and more solid. So, now it tells a little bit of story about his belief in his journey with God. And, that was cool. We would take breaks and have Nerf gun fights in LA while we're doing that tattoo over 3 days. And yeah, another one of those cool moments. I've somehow been just really lucky to have the trust of, people who could choose anybody in the world to do this job for them. So yeah, it's special. And I think moreover, like, I just appreciate the relationships that I've been able to build, and those relationships continue, over the decades. So that's been cool.
So just the last question that I have, what do you aspire to accomplish now? I mean, you've done a lot, but what are some things that you want to do?
Well, in my personal life, I want to be with my kids as much as possible, always. Professionally, my goals changed, right? So, the goal of bridging the gap between fashion and tattoo is like, I think we accomplished that. I think we didn't do that on our own. A lot of artists around the world, have done a great job and helped accomplish that as well. And so we were part of that. But now my goal is to bridge the gap between technology and tattoo. I really think that the skin is the interface where people will be more comfortable to integrate technology. Where, when you think of tattoos, you don't inherently think of nanoparticles, but that's exactly what tattoos are. So when those nanoparticles become safer and smarter in the future, they'll give you feedback on your health, your well-being, your environment. You'll be able to interact with your devices through them. And where people are not inherently accustomed to implanting devices inside their body, that sounds scary. I don't want to do that. Most people don't. All cultures and all history have been comfortable putting nanoparticles in their skin. And so I think that is the area where we focus on at Hyperskin, which is the parent company of Magic Ink. What are the next things that will improve people's lives? Some of those things are, health focused and prevention focused. And some of those things are near impossible things to accomplish, but we work on them, and that feels exciting.
Definitely. Well, I appreciate you coming on and sharing your story. I think it's a pretty great story to come from, we're just doing tattoos in your kitchen and tattooing some of the most important people in the world. And now, you've done what you've done in fashion, and it's really changed the space with merging tattoos and fashion. And now with technology, I'm excited to see what you'll do there. So appreciate it, Keith.
Thanks so much, Ben. It was a pleasure to meet you. Thanks for having me.